What's up, guys? D7 back at you. And here we go. We have Trump mobilizing National Guard troops from 19 states. And they're going to use them in terms of going and making cities safer, as they put it. Now, I want to clear a few things up here in terms of what they can and can't do and what they're doing. Now, the Posse Comitatus Act basically says that you cannot use federalized police force against civilians for law enforcement. But they will use Title 32, 502F, Section 502F, to basically circumvent this. And what they're going to do is they're going to use these troops large scale, spread out across whatever cities they're sending them to, and they'll be used as like a fence line or a buffer. They're also going to be used to process people, to do all the fingerprinting, to drive these people wherever they need to go, anyone that they're capturing. They will not be used to arrest people. All right? That's what's being said right now. If we see footage and stuff that says different, then we'll address it when that happens. But as of right now, as it's being described, 19 states coughing up their boys and gals, your last line of defense, remember that, being sent into these cities. And it looks like they're targeting Chicago with some kind of massive event. They're trying to say that they've got DC, no homicides in 10 days. And, of course, with all the feds running around there, National Guard troops, it is going to knock things back. So this is a double-edged sword. Of course, we need the criminals rounded up and taken out of here in terms of the rapists, the killers, all that. That's true, okay? But we do not need these forces used on everyday Americans. So if we begin to see that, then the cover's blown on what this is all really about. I will warn and preface this one more time, that if they throw us into lockdowns over a real pandemic, all of this will be used against purebloods in a heartbeat. You should remember that.
In tonight's Fox Focus, the New York National Guard has been part of missions around the world, but they also have a very important one right here at home.
It's to keep the drugs off our local streets. Their technology and training is now free to local police departments and agencies if they want it. As Fox 23's Kristen Loudman explains, no one's been turned away if they ask for help.
Dust and desert, the images most equate with the New York National Guard on the front lines in the Middle East fighting the war on terror. These images are pictures of another fight, a fight here at home.
The war on drugs is an ongoing war. Our people are committed to this fight. It's a domestic fight. They firmly believe in it.
The New York National Guard's counter-drug task force providing not only the people, but the equipment law enforcement may need to make drug arrests and seizures.
We can go right on the scene with this or into a car. You can sniff around with it, or you can take a swab of a surface and put it into the machine, and it'll tell you what it is.
Using ionization, counter-drugs machines can detect chemicals, explosives, narcotics on money, weapons, even fabric. A simple swab can tell you if that surface had contact with those substances.
Nothing.
And a simple sweep of an undercarriage or a scan of a car can help find drugs or weapons being brought into the capital region. While the under-vehicle inspection system looks for traps or voids where anything could be taped or bolted in, the mobile vehicle inspection system takes it one step further.
Basically, it's an X-ray, and if you zoom in on the trunk portion, you can see the rifle that's laid across the bottom there.
With a warrant, a department can request a scan. Then, with a swing of an arm, gamma rays outline the car and its skeleton.
We scan the car and we can give them images of areas that they might want to look at, and we'll identify anomalies for the law enforcement so they can check into the car further. That way they don't have to rip the car totally apart. We can show them spots with points of interest where they might want to check to find something.
The Schenectady Police Department, just one agency that has called in the Guard for help. In 2009, a driver was arrested, his car brought to the station and scanned after an officer smelled marijuana coming from the car. No drugs were found, but that traffic stop and scan, part of an investigation against the suspect.
Our investigation continued on that individual for almost another year, and he eventually was taken into custody for drug trafficking charges. It's a great resource that we certainly don't have the money to afford, but it's a resource available to us at no cost, so it's a big help to us.
Counter-drug also helps departments from the air. National Guard aircraft helping with observation, tracking, and finding illegal growing operations.
Now, in other news, the Secret Service this weekend, after breaches of the White House security, the Secret Service is mulling security checkpoints around the White House. The U.S. Secret Service is having preliminary discussions about setting up security screening checkpoints near public areas around the White House. They told the AP on Sunday. This is a story on InfoWars. Now, of course, they even found an unlocked door at the White House, so there's something far beyond just routine checks. That reminds me of when they had unlocked doors on airplanes around 9/11. They checked that. That would be one thing they could do. They could basically lock the door. Now, they're saying that this is something that has to be done in response to this threat where essentially a deranged person jumped the fence and ran towards the White House and got inside. He had a folded 3.5-inch knife in his pocket, so that represented a huge threat to the president. Now, in a second incident this weekend, we also had a 19-year-old man charged with unlawful entry. His car pulled up to the barricades, and although he did not strike the barricades and he got out of the car, he was still arrested and charged. Is this a sign of new heightened paranoia? Remember that it was back in May of 2012 that InfoWars reported that the First Amendment is now a felonious act. Remember the Federal Restricted Building and Grounds Improvement Act that was passed in February of 2012 by the Congress? They did that quietly, and the president quietly signed that bill. And for many of us, we were concerned that the Secret Service was going to be used to stifle protests, as it appears that they may very well now do in front of the White House. Now they will use this incident of one man running across the White House lawn. They will use that essentially to shut down protests, I believe. Now, the punishment that was enacted into law is a fine and or 10 years in prison, both if they say that you possess a deadly weapon, and they said that he had a 3.5-inch folded knife in his pocket. So it appears that he's in for a very long stretch. But what we were concerned about at the time is that the way the law is written, it can be used to stifle any kind of protest or dissent by the Secret Service anywhere they wish. It appears that will now happen at the White House lawn. Now, the fellow who jumped across the fence and ran into the White House said that, quote, he was concerned that the atmosphere was collapsing and he needed to get the information to the president. Well, he's being treated as a deranged individual, but there were literally hundreds of thousands of people across the world that were essentially warning everyone about the sky collapsing. We're going to cover that right after the break. Stay with us.
Downtown Kenya. Why? And I think we have National Guard. Like National Guard. Why? National Guard. I'm going to ask them. Yes, I need to. Okay, let's go. I mean, I need to know these things. Why? So should they come back? No, we're going to ship right now. I need to know these things. Why is the National Guard here? I want to know. To do the police job, that's amazing. And why are they, this is for traffic, but why are they here? I'm curious. It's our right to know. Question real quick. I'm going to ask you better English. Excuse me, guys. Hi there. Just real curious, why is the National Guard out here? Oh, we're just helping with security and traffic and stuff for the races. Are you under the city? Are you working for the city right now? Is that? Are you working for the city? Are you under the control of the police? So? I have no idea, actually. Okay. I just do what I'm told. I say Roger Sergeant. I know, but we called you that. You're a sergeant? Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Have you ever done anything like this before? A fair, a National Guard? Nope. 5 star occasion. This is not for civil. I mean, you don't think in a civilian environment. There is a Posse Comitatus law. The Army or National Guard shouldn't be here unless there is an emergency. Anyway, thank you. I want to get to that. Not a good thing. And not against you, but it's not a good thing what's happening in this country when the military is teaming up with local police. We're not liking this at all. Nothing with you. Thank you. Nothing with you. Thank you. We're not hacking this at all.
Are they gone?
Huh?
Are they gone?
I hope not. I don't think so.
I don't think you, Rylan. Yes.
Well, hold on. Would you like to scare them off?
Yes.
At least you got that one step.
Yeah.
Boy, you did get that step. Let's see. Hey there. The National Guard is just here.
Yeah, they just left.
They just left. What are they doing here?
They're doing security for the... Are you hearing anything else now? They're helping out? That's what I read. Everything? That's suicide watch here. Suicide watch? Yeah, you said up here.
Yeah. We were just curious because that is totally unconstitutional to have the military, you know, doing security for something that's not a volunteer thing. No, yeah, I understand.
Now, here's your Pentagon Channel report.
The National Guard is helping to handle logistics during Super Bowl 45 this Sunday in Texas. Army Sergeant Luke Allen shows us the preparations that are underway.
The Texas Army National Guard's Joint Task Force 71 is working in conjunction with civil support teams, also known as CSTs, from several other states to provide a safe, secure environment for Super Bowl 45 in North Texas. The CSTs are working with local agencies to accomplish that mission.
We have what we call the Special Operations Team. It's a part of fire rescue. We provide hazmat, weapons of mass destruction response, as well as technical rescue. And the CST is basically augmenting us. They're bringing us things that we don't ordinarily have in terms of equipment, manpower, some knowledge and expertise.
We don't come in to take over the first responders. We're here to assist them in any way, shape, and form.
The military and local organizations working together here believe that vigilance and preparation are key to an incident-free event.
Looking forward to what the Army can bring to the table and offer us, as well as what we can offer them, and work together. It's been great.
We're there to help. We're for the state. We're for the region. Whatever we can bring to the table as far as emergency response comes, we'd like to help.
Reporting from North Texas for the 100th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, I'm Army Sergeant Luke Allen.
Heads up. Mr. President, about the report that 20,000 uniformed troops are going to be deployed on U.S. soil, which is illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act, which since the Civil War has prohibited the deployment of the military within the United States. Oh, Posse Comitatus is a quaint law, just like the Geneva Conventions, the Constitution. Look, local control of law enforcement is so 1870s. Wouldn't it be more fun to have a military junta running the country? Come on, who here wants a junta?
The Posse Comitatus Act restricts military involvement in U.S. domestic law enforcement, but includes vital exceptions for national security and civil rights. State defense forces like the National Guard operate independently under state control, but adhere to the Act when federally mobilized. The Act gives way to the Insurrection Act, which has sanctioned federal military use in national emergencies 23 times up to 1992. In urgent situations such as nuclear threats, the Defense Department can act upon the Attorney General's request, ensuring military readiness within legal boundaries. The law also permits military assistance in combating weapons of mass destruction, protecting foreign diplomats, and anti-terrorism efforts, including bomb disposal and intelligence. Historical instances, such as the Delta Force's role in the 1987 Atlanta prison riots, demonstrate the military's critical domestic security contributions within legal limits.
It is 4:10 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is my first video that I have ever recorded to put up on Facebook. I'm a combat vet. I did 3 tours in the Persian Gulf. I fought there so I won't have to fight here. And I am profoundly disturbed by every aspect of what's going on right now. Don't think this is going to stop. People are looting and protesting. Well, it's your constitutional right to protest. And I would not take that away from anybody. But here are the facts. Those 4 cops were arrested. The FBI has come in. There are criminal investigations going on right now. If this was a situation where the police stood on that thin blue line and locked arms with each other and said that absolutely not, we will not prosecute the wrongdoing of our brothers, then absolutely, protests would be very warranted. Destruction of private property is not warranted. Destroying your neighbor's businesses, your neighbor's cars, your very neighborhood police. No, the police department is not perfect. No police department is. And yes, there are bad cops. But the bad cops in this situation are being taken care of legally. Then we have the overreaction of a president who says that he's going to violate Posse Comitatus and bring in the military and start shooting American citizens. This is also not acceptable, not even remotely acceptable. Mr. President, I challenge you to take a look again at that Constitution that you swore to protect and defend, and to actually understand what that means. You do not use the U.S. military on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens. The state has the right to call in the guards, the state guards. The federal government has the right to call in the National Guards. You just don't run out willy-nilly and start rampaging every bit as bad as the looters. At some point, the rule of law must apply. I get it. People are hurting. And if I were there and saw a cop murder a man in the street in front of me, I would be in jail because I would have taken him down. Because that is not acceptable. This is not a race thing. This is we collectively slipped in a puddle of stupid and bumped our damn heads. Wake up, America. This is not going to stop.
A state of emergency remains in effect tonight, though, and that has brought the National Guard to the region. They are dispatched in Allegheny County and could be patrolling the streets as early as this evening. Lynn Hayes-Freeland is live now with more. Lynn, what can you tell us about this?
Well, Patrice, what I can tell you is the Humvee that you see behind me is one of the vehicles that's going to be riding throughout this area, and there are plenty of them. In fact, there are more than 300 members of the Pennsylvania National Guard in this area. They will be doing rescue missions. The mayor announced earlier today they're also going to be doing security, and you may see one of these Humvees in your neighborhood as early as tonight. They began arriving in our area last night, members of the Pennsylvania National Guard. Their mission, take their Humvees into areas where emergency vehicles can't otherwise go and help.
This vehicle could probably move through snow of 5 feet deep.
They are helping police and paramedics or those who simply can't get out of their homes with no water, food, or power and no way to get out. This woman was having chest pains and called 911. The National Guard went along with EMTs to make sure they didn't run into roads that were impassable.
The missions that we're running right now are threefold. The first one is EMT support. Anywhere that the civilian ambulances and EMT personnel cannot reach, our personnel and military EMTs are picking up those personnel, taking them to a civilian EMT, and allowing them to get to the hospital.
The National Guard is also in the area to help police to get to emergency scenes when needed or to take people to warming centers and shelters. The Humvees have everything on board from stretchers to military food. They are here until the emergency situation subsides.
And if the power keeps getting restored at the pace that is getting restored now, hopefully we'll be able to end mission sooner rather than later. But if it continues to slow down or, some other unforeseen happen, we could be here all week.
The chest pain call ended up at the hospital, and it's now time for the National Guard to move to the next emergency. And the National Guard also says as more and more roads become passable, their mission will change. But they say the bottom line is this: they are here to help, and they'll do whatever is needed. Reporting live tonight, I'm Lynn Hayes-Freeland, KDKA TV News.
President Trump is defending his response to the Los Angeles protests, calling the demonstrators, quote, insurrectionists. He made those comments on Truth Social last night, saying Governor Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass should apologize for the, quote, horrible job they have done. But earlier, when speaking to reporters, Trump stopped short of saying the protests constituted an insurrection.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
As far as we know, there's only about 300 of the National Guard, California National Guard troops who are actually on scene. There are at least 3 different locations. But remember, this authorization is to federalize up to 2,000. These are California National Guard troops who are being used here. But we heard Jacob earlier talk about them being under Title X authority. What that means is they are essentially federalized. They are under the authority of the federal government. They're paid by them. They get benefits under the federal government while they're serving. And they are also under the same restrictions that federal troops face when they are operating in the United States. Why that's so critical in this case here is because if you have a National Guard soldier who is under California law or who's under California state activation, that means that they are answering to and under the authority of the governor, Governor Newsom, who we've heard from earlier in the show already. Now, in that capacity, they have some ability to conduct law enforcement missions, to support the local law enforcement, but they have a little bit more authority with actually taking on or conducting law enforcement missions. Once those troops are federalized, that goes away. They can still support the LAPD and they can support the ICE agents who are there, but they cannot make arrests. What's the most unique part about this is the president doing it despite the governor not asking for these troops, but specifically saying that he doesn't want the troops to be there. Now, the Marines here, 500 are now under or on a hot standby. They have to be ready to go very quickly. What's really critical about them is they will also be federalized. That makes sense. They are active duty. The question everyone should be asking here, though, Mika, is are they actually trained for any of the kinds of law enforcement or the sorts of functions that they could be called upon to do here? That's one of the questions we've been asking.
It's quiet here in Washington as we come on the air this morning, but the debate is heating up over President Trump's calling up of nearly 2,300 National Guardsmen, along with federal agents from ICE, the ATF, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FBI, and others, to patrol the streets of the city alongside D.C. police forces. And we're seeing yet another instance of Trump's expanding of the federal government's reach, this time when it comes to control of police in local communities. Will we see pictures like these in other U.S. cities in the future? Well, one of the places President Trump has mentioned as needing help fighting crime is nearby Baltimore. And joining us right now is Maryland's Democratic Governor, Wes Moore. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So here in D.C., there are guardsmen from 6 different states on the street. The mission is, quote, beautification, duty, and support. The defense secretary has authorized them to carry M4 and M17 rifles, but to date, we have not been able to locate anyone armed within the National Guard on the streets of D.C. Why, though, are you so opposed to this deployment?
Well, there's plenty of reasons. One, it is not sustainable. You cannot continue this type of pace of operations, particularly when it's costing over $1 million a day in order to do this. The second, it's not scalable. You're not going to be able to do this in every single major American city, particularly when many of the cities that have the highest crime rates are the places that have actually deployed their National Guards to Washington, D.C. So who's going to go do the work in their cities? The third, it's unconstitutional. It's a direct violation of the 10th Amendment, and if for a party that talks about state rights, it's amazing how they're having such a big government approach in the way they're conducting public safety. The fourth reason is because it's deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. As someone who actually deployed overseas and served my country in combat, to ask these men and women to do a job that they're not trained for is just deeply disrespectful. And so when we're thinking about all of these lasting factors, when we're thinking about the fact that it serves as a distraction from the fact that the president's disastrous economic policies are making everything more expensive for everyday Americans and making life harder for everyday Americans, there is a multitude of reasons that I am against this, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be utilized for this.
Well, the National Guard does say that these troops will be trained and deputized by federal marshals. So this is going to be distinct from the military rules of engagement.
But it is counter to every bit of training that we've received. When I joined the military, we joined with a clear intention to fight and win our nation's wars. The members of our National Guard are trained up to be able to address things like emergency situations where you need a surge of supports for traumas and disasters that are happening within individual jurisdictions. That is not this. And this is a direct deflection that the president is authorizing.
We know the president watches the program, and he likely saw the guest listing because he's tweeting about you, or truthing, I guess. He says the governor, Wes Moore of Maryland, has asked in a nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. And he's talking about crime-ridden Baltimore. It's quite lengthy, but he goes after your record on crime. He says it's a bad one. He says if you need help, he will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C. I mean, when we saw a few weeks ago the deployment on the streets of Los Angeles, the governor of California tried to go to the courts, and he was unable to stop it. Is the reality here is you can't stop the president from sending troops to Baltimore if he wants to?
The year before I became the governor, in 2022, Baltimore was averaging almost a homicide a day. And I came in and I said, I refuse to be a governor who just offers thoughts and prayers to this situation. So we said, we're actually going to work in partnership with Mayor Scott, work in partnership with local elected officials, work in partnership with local law enforcement. We made the largest investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, over $50 million going to Baltimore City alone.
That came from federal money.
That came from both federal and state money. And also, Maryland became one of the only states that actually helps to fund the U.S. attorney out of balance sheet, taking many of those gun crimes and actually turning them into federal charges. And the results have been incredibly encouraging, where Maryland has had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime of anywhere in the United States in the past 2.5 years. Yeah. The homicide rate in Maryland is down over 20% since I have been the governor. And the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And so the reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics. And, just last week I was in Baltimore, and I was with a group called We Are Us, who's a violence intervention group. And they say, we're all we got, we're all we need. And that's exactly how people in this community feel. Because while the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime, but it's falling on deaf ears of the president of the United States.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. and it won't even be tough.
President Donald Trump announced plans to deploy federal troops or National Guard forces to Chicago as part of a broader initiative targeting violent crime, homelessness, and public disorder in major U.S. cities. The proposal follows similar deployments in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles, where the administration cited safety concerns and local enforcement challenges. Trump described the measure as necessary to protect residents and address persistent issues of gun violence and gang activity. Officials said the Pentagon had begun preparing contingency plans, though no formal deployment order had been issued. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker condemned the plan, stating there was no emergency to justify federal troops and accusing the president of politicizing the military. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson also criticized the move, calling it uncoordinated, uncalled for, and unsound, and noted recent declines in violent crime within the city. Legal experts highlighted potential constitutional issues, referencing the Posse Comitatus Act, which limits domestic use of military forces. Similar federal actions in other cities have already faced court challenges. The situation remains fluid as city and state leaders prepare for possible legal responses.